So this particular one is about identifying why would we need that. This would be really helpful to understand an insight into the solution's performance in terms of what is the proposed value and why we have set out initially to develop this product, and kind of align whether it is indeed working up to its name in terms of what are the expectations that we have set out for. And then the performance measures are analyzed on the basis of enterprise goals and objectives, the original business goals, the vision, the mission, the strategic tactical aspects that we have initially set out for. And from there, how we derived the project level or the initiative level goals and the performances, and also the KPIs that we have set out for the measures, the risk level, how is the risk perceived on this one, what kind of risks that we have identified, and the mitigation strategies that we have accordingly identified. And then we also need to understand if there are any specific SLAs, service level agreements, or any kind of targets and goals that we have set out for specifically for the performance of that application. So all of these are important so that we can now then start looking at analysis of the performance against all these parameters, against all these goals and objectives, the expectations, so that we can compare and contrast and get a realistic idea whether it is really living up to the expectations and the promises that we have got. So what are the inputs into this one? The potential value that we have got for the specific solution, and the solution performance measures which we have identified in the previous activity, which is basically the output from that activity. So that would become an input into this. And then we start analyzing the performance measures, and finally we can deliver our analysis in the form of a report or a kind of a key metric. So in terms of the guidelines and tools, what do we have here? We've got the change strategy, which is very important. Again, what's the approach, the method, the kind of techniques that we have got? What is the to-be solution? What is the kind of proposed solution that we have got? How is it shaped? And then the risk analysis results that we have got so far. So again, it is not the entire set of results, but at least having a stop at this, having kind of an intermediate understanding of where we have come so far. How have we been performing on the risks? What kind of risks have been identified? How are the mitigation strategies being prepped up? Are we solving the right problems? How risky, and how are we trying to address the risk aspect of the solution in connection with all the requirements that we have got in the solution scope? So that's very important. Again, the solution scope plays a key role here. And then what are the tasks that would use this output? Analyze solution limitations, which is again the next activity that we're going to discuss, and assess enterprise limitations. Again, another one that we would discuss in detail in the next few slides. So what do we need to do here in the context of analysis of the performance measures as BAs? We start with the solution performance versus desired value. In terms of the analysis, we'll have to look at it. What is the current set of performance levels versus what is it that we expect from it in terms of the expected or the estimated value. So it's always the comparison contrast with the baseline figures versus what is the current state now. And the risk identification management, as we discussed earlier, very important at every point of time. So there's another critical stage where we try and assess the risks that we have, technology risks, business risks, market risks, people risks, all those. And then we try and come up with some kind of mitigation strategies and be able to manage those risks effectively. And then what are the current set of trends that we have got in the market? Why is this important? Because we need to look at a solution and see if it's staying contemporary to the existing trends in the market. Are we doing something which is completely out of line with the times and with the technologies, the tools being used in the market? If so, then we need to kind of adjust our sales. So it's really important that we understand, again, coming to the SWOT analysis, looking at the opportunities and the threats, the emerging trends, some of the latest set of technologies, tools, and ways of working that would really help us to align our own working, our own set of tools to the ones that are really trendy in the market. Sometimes it's not really required. You don't want to really latch onto a a fad which is for the time being, and then it goes away, it fades away. So it's important that you see trends and not fads or some of the fashion stuff. So it's really important that you differentiate between those. Trends are more impactful, more meaningful. Trends have got more connection with reality than fads and these kind of fashion stuff. So it's really important you distinguish between these two. And so you need to latch on to the trends. You need to understand what is a significant set of emerging trends, patterns, ways of working, technology, and established ways of working, rather than something which is more of a fashionable thing, which is more seasonal, which comes now and is vanished in the next 2 weeks or months. So it's important you need to differentiate that and be able to pick up the right trend. And the performance variances. So it's important that once we identify these trends, we start looking at the compare and contrast these with the existing versus expected. You would then be able to understand where the variance is, where is the differences, and then from there on we can pick those and then be able to build the gap, bridge the gap between the expected versus the reality, expected versus actual, between the estimated versus where we are, the current. So all of these are important so that we can define the performance measures, we can analyze them, and then we can use these as key insights into the next few set of activities. And what are the kind of stakeholders that we tend to work with at this stage? Again, it's mostly a kind of looking at the data, but it's important we consult the right set of people, right set of stakeholders. That's where the domain subject matter expert comes into picture. Again, the same with the implementation subject matter expert, the project manager. So and then of course the sponsors would be very important at this stage, because we are now getting an analysis of performance measures. We might actually need to take some stringent actions based on the outcomes from the analysis. So in which case we might have to seek the approval for the budgets. We might have to get new set of tools. We might have to use new techniques, get some new resources, train some existing people. All of these might need some kind of additional budget. So we might have to get the approval from the sponsors in this case. And that's why we would need to involve them in the process. And what techniques do we use here? Again, acceptance and evaluation criteria are very important, because that's what would be the basis for the analysis. That's what is going to really give you the definition of done and being able to give you the baselines for the comparison and contrasting. Benchmarking, market analysis, again, like what we just discussed in the previous activity, gives you the set of baselines, gives you a set of indications in terms of which way the market is moving, what are the kind of things that the competitors are trying to incorporate. Interviews at this stage would actually give you the key insight into what users. So at this stage, it's more than stakeholders. It's now you're trying to reach out to the end users, trying to get into their minds and trying to understand what their way of thinking, their perspectives, their experiences, the ways that they use, where are the breakdowns, and what are the kind of expectations from their side. So again, you tend to conduct interviews, but then these interviews are not with the stakeholders internally to the organization, but with external stakeholders, and more so with the users and the customers. And observation, again, is going to be a significant set of elicitation techniques that we can try and use. Very important, because sometimes the products that we're going to use might need more of following, understanding what is happening on the ground. And for that one, it's better to kind of deploy some observation techniques and methods like contextual inquiry and contextual observation, rather than just hearing it or seeing through the third eye. It's important we get that directly from the primary source, and no better that for that set of things than deploying the observation technique. And we can also use the metrics and KPIs, again, very important, because that's what we are going to use as a set of analysis factors and parameters for us to determine whether we're in the right track. The risk analysis and management, again, gives you a good set of the risk indicators and the mitigation strategies for those for addressing the risks. Data mining, again, collecting data from all these different techniques we've been sitting on a huge gold mine of data coming in from the usage statistics, from the analytics, from the web analytics, for example, if it's a website or a web application, and sometimes it could be a third-party application which has been giving the analytics, tags and giving us the information about the users, environment, their agents, the kind of client devices they're using, the technology that they're using to access our data. All of these we can try and use to mine the data to get to the specific aspects of the behavior, user behaviors, and how they're trying to engage with our product. Again, very contextual and rich data. And surveys of questionnaires, again, would be a good way to assess the overall feedback in terms of how a product has been received in the market. Again, it's not really going to be as detailed and as experiential based as the interviews or the observation, but at least we can get a dipstick aspect of the overall feeling about a market, about a product in the market. And then root cause analysis would give you, once you get that feeling, we can actually get the root cause analysis of specifically where the problem has come through, why is it happening, and then we can try and take some measures to address the specific problems that we have identified. So all of these techniques, if we try and use this, if we try and deploy at this stage, would actually help us correct our course and make sure that we are aligned to the business objectives, and also the solution that we are proposing is actually delivering the potential value that it has been expected to. And that's why it is really important that we use this different set of techniques.